Hey SUBFURYs! So earlier in the week I did a spoiler-free review of Race to the Edge Season 5. You can click the link up in the corner of the screen to watch that. But now it is time to enact my evil plan and spoil everything for you! Beware, SUBFURYs. From here on out we delve into spoiler territory. No step you make shall be made without spoilers. No breath you take shall be taken without secrets coming to light. Do you dare? Do you? Leave this video now or brave the rest of it with me. Good. Then let us begin. We'll be doing the dragons we met, Hickson, the volcanic eruption, the Dragon Eye, Traitor Johan, Krogan, Viggo, and who knows what else. Now I don't have time to talk about every single individual episode in this review, but if there are particular moments or things from the latest series that you want me to make a whole video on, or perhaps a particular episode that you want me to do in a special review of, then let me know down in the comments below. Now buckle up you, because we've got a long video ahead of us. Now last video I did ask you for your best puns, and boy did you deliver. Your favourite one being from fearless Astrid Hofferson, who said, Traitor Johan? More like Traitor Johan. You're not funny. Spyro, that wasn't even my joke. You apologize right now. Apologize.
I'm sorry.
That's better. But my personal favourite was from Apple Juice, who said, 2 fish were sitting in a tank and one asked, how do you drive this thing? Oh man. This is what the internet was made for. Finally, a word on the t-shirts. I've been looking at the responses. I've had over 1,200 of them, and I'm pretty sure that we have picked the design for the official SUBFURY t-shirt. Who, you ask? That you will have to find out in another video, because I'm still working things out about how things work. I'm just so evil today. So last season ended on an explosive finale. The Edge volcano erupted just after they stopped Viggo, and I was really keen to see how they would deal with that whole situation. To my pleasure, they did it well. A mix of Death Song Amber and Gronkle Iron made a substance strong enough that they could plug up all of the volcanic leaks. It was also really cool to see Garth again. My only really one issue with the opening episode is that I felt like the volcanic eruption was going to be a far bigger threat than it turned out to be. I wanted it to remind me of the scene in The Last Airbender where Roku is fighting a volcano with this sense of urgency and panic. But they spent most of the episode away from the edge. I would have loved to have seen an episode where the volcano explodes and the riders panic and scramble to try and divert the lava flow so it doesn't hit the edge, and they succeed temporarily before the volcano erupts once again, sending more lava their way, and only then do they realise that they need to mix Death Song Amber and Gronkle Iron to create that substance to plug up the volcano. I thought that would have been a better way to do the episode, but who knows, I might be wrong. What do you think? On another note, I think one of the most beautiful shots we have ever gotten in Race to the Edge was that one with Toothless and Hiccup flying across Outpost Island and watching the lava flow down from the mountain. Seriously, I felt like that came out of the movies and not in the TV show. It was really well and artistically done. Now, the Sandbuster was introduced in the second episode of the season, rightly named Sandbusted, and I really like this dragon. Now, to be fair, it doesn't actually look particularly interesting. It looks like they sort of designed it just to be kind of a larger, terrible terror-esque kind of dragon, but its breath power is really unique, and funnily enough, they don't actually explore it that much in the episode itself. But you can see in the moment where Snotlout holds up that shield to defend himself against it, it creates this glassy, red-hot material that hardens on contact. Now, if you don't know what that is, sand can be heated up and refined into glass, and it appeared to me that that is precisely what was happening with that dragon, which I thought was really cool. The Sandbuster would heat up the sand in its stomach before spurting it at its enemy, where it would harden into glass on contact. There was also a really nice character growth moment for Snotlout in this episode when he said, "We are not going anywhere without that man," meaning Hiccup. he really does care about him when it counts. The one disappointing thing about this is that I was really hoping to see a Sand Wraith, this kind of Night Fury-esque looking dragon that we can meet in Rise of Berk and School of Dragons, and this was the perfect episode for them to introduce the Sand Wraith. That wouldn't have changed the episode that much, and I feel like it was a missed opportunity. It's another dragon that hides in the sand to hunt its prey and shoots these balls of sand at its enemies, similar to how the Sandbuster does. But no, the creators don't love me enough. Nobody loves you. My girlfriend loves me. Mishka loves me. Moving on, we need to talk about one of my favorite places in the series, perhaps ever. Vanaheim. Now, one of my main criticisms of Race to the Edge is that every single island we seem to go to looks exactly the same, and I sort of inescapably compare it to Avatar: The Last Airbender, which gave us these stunning cinematic looking artistic views every single episode. But finally, the creators of Race to the Edge have given us another beautiful, unique looking island like the Edge or Berk. Now, there are so many things that we need to talk about with this one island in particular, and I'll be making plenty of videos on it. It gave us an incredible insight into dragon anthropology and society and culture. The entire island is made out of a bewilderbeast skeleton, and the implications of that are just massive. And we also meet some of my new favorite dragons, Sentinels. Just as we predicted, they arrived on the island thinking that the Sentinels were statues, before later on in the episode, they find themselves surrounded. Now, the Sentinels not only looked incredibly cool, but they had abilities unlike almost anything else. So most dragons tend to only have, say, a breath ability, and some have also another ability like Quakens, and a few have even more than that, like Night Furies. Skrills are another example of that, and it appears that Sentinels can be added to this list, this group of ultra versatile dragons. They can adapt and respond to different kinds of dragons that they meet, constantly evolving and developing to make sure that they can protect Vanaheim, the final resting place of dragons. Seeing that the Eruptodon goes there, as well as Deadly Natters, Gronkles, and Monstrous Nightmares, tell us that those groups of dragons tend to share some sort of societal bond, or perhaps they at least did in the past. And interestingly, just as they pointed out in the episode, there were no Night Fury bones there. Which adds even more to my theory that Night Furies don't come from the archipelago. They live in a faraway land, which is why they never died at Vanaheim. Would you guys like to see more videos on Vanaheim in particular? Tell me down below. On the topic of dragon culture, we also learned that razor whips tend to grow up with the wing maiden to take care of them before releasing them back into the wild. And the wing maidens are cannibals who eat men. But they seem nice enough, right? Yeah. They're great people, the best people, I tell you. I'll make the best deal with the wing maidens. Don't criticize me, I cannot do a Donald Trump impression. Now, truth be told, I don't really know how I felt about the wing maidens. I always sort of had this impression that sharing that sort of bond with dragons was unheard of before, or at least so incredibly rare that there wouldn't be an entire society of people out there who were already doing it before Hiccup and so on. I mean, meeting Krogan's flies was a really big deal, and the second movie, which had this effect of broadening the How to Train Your Dragon world and saying, you know, like there are other things out there beyond what we know, there wasn't any sort of hint that there were other dragon riders out there. And I almost felt like the wing maidens didn't actually need to be able to fly to play the same role that they did in the episode, protecting and raising these razor whips. And then why wouldn't they fight against Drago, given that their island is actually around the same area-ish as Volker's mountain, meaning that I'm sure they would have possibly seen or heard about Drago in the second movie, but they were completely absent. That being said, I did actually like their society, and I liked the characters involved, and I hope we get to see them again. Possibly, maybe Krogan invades their island and they lose it. They lose that entire society of razor whips that they have been raising. That sort of blow would really be quite a dark turn, which I've been wanting them to take for the last one. That's just me being sadistic, I suppose. I don't know, what do you think? Tell me down below in the comments. Now, one thing we need to talk about is the return of perhaps my favorite character in the entire series, Viggo Grimborn. Just as we suspected, working with Krogan for the Dragon Eye, I loved how his burned face and eye looked. I liked how cynical he was, almost humbled after he was defeated by the Riders. He advised Krogan against underestimating Hiccup, almost like he had wisened up since his defeat. But there was actually a really beautiful moment in Wings of War Part 1 where Viggo is retrieving the Dragon Eye and he saves Mr. Clone Warrior 7000 from falling into the lava. He says, "Krogan would have never saved me," and Viggo replies, "I know all too well what Krogan would have done." And that to me is one of the most crucial scenes that tells us where the future of the series is going. Krogan and Viggo clearly disagree about being evil. Krogan is cruel and domineering, while Viggo is controlling but never wasteful. He never let his men die like Krogan does, and part of me thinks that this will be Krogan's downfall, and that Viggo will play a part. Now, don't take this as me saying that Viggo will turn good, because I don't necessarily think that he will. But I do think that he will come to realize that Krogan isn't just bad like he was, concerned with profits and making money and power. Krogan is evil. Later on in the season, Krogan nearly tries to murder Viggo with a knife, and don't you try and tell me that he's not going to try and do that again. Oh no, they're setting up a villain rivalry. Possibly even a three-way war, with a lot of Krogan's men staying loyal to Viggo because he doesn't try to kill them, while Krogan of course has his elite dragonflies, and the Riders will get caught up in the middle of this. That is something that I would like to see. Will they fight over the Dragon Eye? Because it appears that Krogan doesn't really know how to use it without Viggo's help. Bethany on Twitter asked me to talk about the relationships between the characters this season, and I will. The beautiful romance between Krogan and Viggo. But this was a big season for Hickstrid shippers, most notably when Hiccup gave Astrid something that is specifically said to be a betrothal necklace. But if that's a betrothal necklace, and that means engagement, then that means wedding. It has long been speculated that Hiccup and Astrid are engaged at the start of the second movie, and this may well lend credence to that theory. In fact, it would be a really cool way for Race to the Edge to end, with a wedding. Astrid in a dress, well, that is something I never thought that I would see. There were also some beautiful moments between Roughnut and Toughnut which show how much the twins mean to one another, especially later on in the season where Roughnut is having to choose between Toughnut and Throck, and she says to him like, "What? No, we're a package deal." Like, of course, even if she got married, she would still stay with her brother. And another beautiful moment that wasn't actually between the human characters, but the dragons, notably Stormfly and Garth. Stormfly is obviously agitated after they have to send Garth away. She's fretting and running about and clearly distressed, almost in tears so much that Astrid thinks she is dying. But, hear me out. I would put on my tinfoil hat, but is it possible that they were in love? We know of other dragon species that have crossbred, so it's possible, but maybe not for this. We'll have to see. Now, I do have to mention possibly my least favorite episode of the season, Snuffnut, where Throck arrives at the edge and wants to pursue and marry Roughnut. This prompts Toughnut to fake his own death so that she would be happy. Now, I was watching this episode and I just couldn't figure out why Throck was even wanting to marry Roughnut at all, and I get that that was part of the hilarity of the episode, but I always took it that Throck was into Marla. He had a reverence and a loyalty to her that he had for nobody else, and was never made a big deal of that Roughnut lied to him originally about saving his life, that put him in that debt situation that possibly attracted him to her. The whole episode felt relatively inconsequential, even if it did have a really nice insight into the relationship that the twins share. On a side note though, I really love that this season played up how smart Toughnut actually is, speaking in French and Spanish and Latin and talking about symbiotic and parasitic relationships. I really do like that quirk of this potential unused intelligence to his his character. What I'm waiting for is the episode where this pays off, where he comes up with the idea that saves the day when Hiccup can't. Now, the end of the season really ramped up with Oswald the Agreeable storyline. We've had Dagger and Heather appearing throughout the season, and I actually thought that that early episode was one of Dagger's best yet. We saw how far he has come in terms of being kind and brotherly and still badass, yet still struggling with those anger issues that he has. In fact, this whole season sort of had this arc of Dagger's past coming back to haunt him, because in that episode, Savage tries to overthrow Dagger as the leader of the Berserkers in the same way that Dagger actually overthrew his father. He had him stranded on Vanaheim. Seeing how he handled this in comparison really shows us how far Dagger has come as a character. Now, one thing that I predicted and wanted for this season was to have some sort of resolution to the storyline surrounding Heather and Dagger's father, and we did finally get that. We find that Oswald was shipwrecked on Vanaheim and eventually died there. The moment of Dagger heading into his father's tent was a nice emotional blip for a character who's often, energetic and always moving about and fast and loud, and he suddenly became quiet and reserved and contemplative. For a while I questioned why Heather was so earnestly trying to find her father, given that she never knew him in the first place, and even when she did, she didn't really want anything to do with that whole side of her family, but it was fine, they did it well. It couldn't have been Dagger because he was feeling just too ashamed. And now we come to the part you have all been waiting for. Traitor Johann.
More like traitor, Johann.
No, Gandalf, you were too late. We already made that joke. But yes, in a twist ending to the series, Traitor Johann is revealed to be evil. And it's implied that he hasn't just been evil this season, he's been evil for a long time. Several seasons past. How did none of us see this coming? To be fair, it wasn't really hinted at all before this season. Though I have seen various comments of people just saying, I knew there was something wrong with that man. I wonder if the writers intended for this to be the case for Traitor Johann's character since the beginning of his introduction. It appears that Traitor Johann is working with Viggo and Drago both to find the King of Dragons. Sound familiar? Because who is the King of Dragons?
Every nest has its queen, but this is the king of all dragons.
That's right, the Bewilderbeast, the mighty tidal-class Leviathan that we meet in the second movie. When they said that the events of Race to the Edge were going to lead up to the second movie, they meant it. I thought it was going to be like loosely tied together, but they're clearly going with a direct storyline that is associated with Drago and the Bewilderbeast. Now, I won't go too deeply into my predictions as to how all of this correlates with Drago Bloodfist and the Bewilderbeast and all of his plans, but it does raise questions. What does Traitor Johann exactly want with a Bewilderbeast? He can't exactly capture it and sell it, can he? And I'm not sure if he is actually working for Drago. Either way, I think it was a brilliant twist. Now, I did see this coming, but that wasn't because of the story. That was because the moment that the series came out, I got dozens of comments and messages and emails telling me about the series, which, that's totally okay. And one of the things that I'm really looking forward to about this whole Traitor Johann storyline is that the writers don't know Johann is evil. So next season, we're going to see him interacting with the riders, infiltrating and getting information out of them, and they're not going to figure out that he is evil too far too late. There are so many players currently in the game in Race to the Edge right now. I don't know who is going to come out on top. Viggo or Krogan or Traitor Johann or the Riders or Drago or the Berserkers or Stoic the Vast. But that's all from me, and that is my first detailed analysis and review of a series of Race to the Edge. I would love to hear what you think of it down below in the comments. Have a chat about what other SUBFuries thought of the season, and in the meantime, I'd love for you to join other SUBFuries. Follow me on Twitter, Wattpad, Facebook, email me or send me stuff that you've made at the links in the description and address below. Stay nerdy, SUBFuries, and I'll see you in the future.